More and more teens become victims of gun violence. One mother is sharing her story to help other grieving parents. It's our top story here on the Night Team. I'm Alex Dieterer. Candy Lanier's daughter was shot and killed nearly 3 years ago. So now every year on July 21st, Lanier has made it a point to celebrate her daughter's life and other teens whose lives were taken on National Nyla Lanier Day. WHAS11 Night Team's Taylor Woods talked to Candy about her daughter's remembrance.
Because I miss my friends so much. She really was my friend.
Candy Lanier still doesn't understand why her 16-year-old daughter Nyla Lanier's life was cut too soon. It's been 3 years and still no answers about who took Nyla's life.
There's no way you could have told me that day that she wasn't coming back home. And I stayed in that house 2 more years. Waiting.
Lanier says Nyla was in front of her aunt's house when a shooting broke out. Her daughter was caught in the crossfire.
Everybody knows me as the mother who lost her daughter. It's kind of like you experience the identity crisis of not even knowing who you are anymore.
Lanier is sharing her story to help other grieving mothers and fathers through her organization, the Nyla Lanier Foundation. As more and more teens become victims of gun violence, Lanier fears for the younger generation.
There's so many children where Nyla's buried, and that's not a kid's cemetery, but that's how they're dying.
This year alone, 47 kids between 11 and 17 have been victims of shootings, and just this week, 2 teens were arrested in connection with the murder of a 13-year-old. This Sunday, Candy has dubbed National Nyla Lanier Day. A balloon release will be held for Nyla and families of other children who have lost their lives.
One of the mothers now is my sister, because my niece was 16 and she was murdered last year.
Lanier says life doesn't always go on for parents who lose their children. She knows 2 mothers who died from a broken heart.
Whatever day that anybody lost their child, a piece of them went with them that day.
Taylor Woods, WHAS 11 Night Team, on your side.
National Nyla Lanier Day is this Sunday, July 21st at 1101 River Road. There will be a balloon wreath held in her honor. And if you can help detectives solve any of these investigations, you're encouraged to call the anonymous tip line. That number right here on your screen is 574-LMPD. The man accused of firing 6 shots at Craig Greenberg when he was running for Louisville mayor is now facing 15 to 18 years in prison after pleading guilty to federal charges today. Quintez Brown accepted a plea deal, pleading guilty to charges of interfering with an election and using a weapon in a criminal act. Federal authorities say the once promising Metro Council candidate and Louisville activist went to Greenberg's campaign office in 2022 and fired 6 shots at him, grazing Greenberg's sweater. In federal court today, the judge detailed terms of Brown's plea agreement, asking directly if he specifically targeted Greenberg because of his campaign. The 23-year-old defendant didn't hesitate, answering, "Yes, sir." Greenberg released a statement after the guilty plea, telling us in part, quote, "I respect our legal system and accept this result. I'm relieved the other victims and our families won't have to relive that horrific experience during a trial. Violence has no place in our political world," end quote. A judge still needs to approve the deal, and that court hearing is expected in October. The nightmare of a fallout continues as companies continue to try and restore systems following a global IT outage. The software failure brought the world to a standstill as it impacted airlines, banks, and 911 systems. ABC's Jacqueline Lee has the latest on restoration efforts.
It was an unfortunate way to kick off a Friday. Computer chaos throughout the country and around the world as systems used by banks, emergency services, and airports simply stopped working.
It's unheard of. It's shocking. I didn't think this could happen, but I guess anything's possible.
The meltdown unfolded overnight after CrowdStrike, the world's second largest cybersecurity company, says it issued a routine Microsoft Windows software update. But the update had a bug in it, which caused the outage. CEO George Kurtz apologizing.
We're deeply sorry for the impact that we've caused to customers, to travelers, to anyone affected by this, including our companies.
At airports, frustrated passengers were stranded with information displays showing the so-called blue screen of death error message. Some airlines even resorting to handwritten boarding passes. Only 47% of flights departed on time today, with 57% having a 30-minute delay or greater in the U.S., according to global aviation analytics firm Cirium. 911 systems in multiple states disrupted, with the Department of Homeland Security reporting delays for patients at hospitals. ABC News found at least 20 hospital systems were impacted, some canceling elective procedures Friday.
We are vulnerable as a country. And of course, the more interconnected we are when it comes to travel and medical care and emergency services and military, the more vulnerable we are to this type of threat. It is something we should take extremely serious as we take air and missile defense, for example.
Many highlighting that while CrowdStrike is meant to prevent cyber attacks, it created an unintentional one. Kurtz later writing on X, "As this incident is resolved, you have my commitment to provide full transparency on how this occurred and the steps we're taking to prevent anything like this from happening again." Jacqueline Lee, ABC News, Los Angeles.
Well, the travel industry was one of the worst hit by the outage, and that included Louisville's Muhammad Ali International Airport. Hundreds of flights across the country were impacted as all 4 major airlines were grounded due to the outage. Many of these cancellations happened early this morning and mid-afternoon. The signs were clear inside Louisville's airport. The boards showed delayed and canceled flights. Many passengers didn't even find out until they arrived at the airport.
But now that we checked their bags in, we got around like a 2-hour delay, and now we found out that our flights are taking off at 6 p.m.
Now I'm looking like I'm flying out tomorrow now. Kind of sucks for sure. Definitely have to look at a hotel room and figure out some options there. So yeah, a little bummed out.
In a post to social media, the airport said all systems were back up and running at about 4:30 this afternoon. However, they are still encouraging passengers to double check their flight status through the weekend to keep up with any potential changes. Louisville Representative Morgan McGarvey has joined the growing number of Democrats to call for President Joe Biden to end his bid for re-election. In a statement, McGarvey praised Biden's leadership during the pandemic, but went on to say, in part, quote, "There is no joy in the recognition Biden should not be our nominee in November, but the stakes of this election are too high. This November, we have to defeat Donald Trump, flip the House, and protect the Senate," end quote. McGarvey concluded his statement by saying Biden is a good man and he trusts him to do what's best for the nation. The president's campaign, however, remains defiant in the face of dwindling support.
You have heard from the president directly time and again. He is in this race to win, and he is our nominee, and he's going to be our president for a second term.
President Biden himself released a statement saying he plans to get back on the campaign trail next week, focused on exposing the threat of Project 2025, a conservative agenda the president has tied to the Trump campaign. Trump has repeatedly tried to distance himself from the plan. Meanwhile, the investigation into the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump continues. Investigators are still searching for a motive for the shooting, but tonight new details are surfacing about the suspected shooter. Sources tell ABC News the shooter searched online for information about bomb making, the date of Trump's rally, and searched for information about major depressive disorder. The investigation also found a series of photos on the shooter's phone that included FBI Director Christopher Wray, Attorney General Merrick Garland, and other public lawmakers. The FBI told lawmakers they've conducted 200 interviews as part of the investigation, and the Director of Secret Service will testify before the House Oversight Committee on Monday. Well, just days from now, Jefferson County Public School bus drivers will begin practicing their new routes after the district made changes to its transportation plan. Once drivers begin practicing Monday, there will be a freeze period until the first day of school on August 8th, where no bus routes can be changed. Parents can still ask for a new stop, but those requests won't be addressed until after the first day of school. The goal is to give drivers time to learn their current routes. The president of the bus union says they also just negotiated a new 5-year contract to increase driver morale.
We brought up a lot of issues in negotiations, and we addressed all those, whether it was the routes, whether it was the bus safety issues, student discipline issues, all of those things were addressed in negotiations, so we had a lot of dialogue there.
JCPS previously told us the website for families to find their child's bus stop would be available Monday. A district spokesperson now says they can no longer commit to Monday and that it will be, quote, sometime next week. New tonight, however, is that transportation plan is once again being challenged in federal court. Today, attorney Teddy Gordon refiled a temporary restraining order on behalf of JCPS parents. Gordon, who has sued the school district dozens of times, claims cutting transportation for most magnet and traditional schools was discriminatory, making it difficult for black students to go to the best schools. Earlier this week, Judge Rebecca Grady Jennings denied the motion due to lack of evidence. Gordon said the original filing had a minor error that these new filings correct. These new documents have been filed but not heard by a judge. Bob Baffert is finally allowed to race again at Churchill Downs. The racetrack lifted the famed horse trainer suspension late today. The trainer was blocked from racing at Churchill Downs after a failed drug test for Medina Spirit. Medina Spirit originally won the Kentucky Derby back in 2021, but was later disqualified. Churchill Downs Incorporated had suspended Baffert through the end of 2024, but ended it 5 months early, saying they felt Baffert had taken responsibility for his actions. In a statement, he said, quote, "I am responsible for any substance found in the horses that I train, and I have paid a very steep price with a 3-year suspension and the disqualification of Medina Spirit's performance. I very much look forward to returning to Churchill Downs and getting back to the winner's circle," end quote.